Okay, now next up, what I'd like to do is show you how you can set up some of the general options for your blog. So what I'm going to do is I will head down to the bottom left to the settings menu there. Go ahead and pop open settings and make sure you're on general, that very first menu item there. That's where we want to be, and we should be inside the general settings screen. Okay, so here's where we can come, obviously, to set general options for our overall blog. So right now, my blog title is set to Jeff's Sweet Rockin' Blog, which I think is a really cool name for a blog. But it doesn't really say a whole lot about what the blog's all about, right? So I'm going to change this just a little bit. Jeff's Sweet Rockin' Flash Blog. How's that? So Jeff's Sweet Rockin' Flash Blog. And then we have a tagline, just another WordPress weblog. That's the default tagline. But they're saying here, in a few words, explain what this blog is all about. And you'll see this tagline, by the way, show up here on the live blog. Just another WordPress weblog, and of course the title across the top there. So that's where that's kind of coming across here. So I think what I'll do is I'll type in nifty flash tricks and tutorials. How's that sound? Okay, great. Below that, we have the WordPress URL, the WordPress address. And again, I'm running this locally, so I'll just leave the default there. The blog URL as well, I'll just leave that as the default as well. Okay, below that, we have the email address that is assigned, if you will, to our WordPress blog. So in other words, this address is going to be used for any sort of admin purposes, new user notifications. You can set it up so that when anyone comments on a post, you get an email, you know, this kind of stuff, right? So anyway, you can throw in your email address there. Now, if you want, what you can do as well is you can set up your blog in such a way so that you can allow people to register. So in other words, almost like a membership blog, right? Which is pretty cool stuff. And you'll see here we have membership, and then anyone can register. I can turn that on. So I would allow anybody to register on my blog. And then when they do register, I want to assign them a user role. Now I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here because we'll talk about adding new users in just a little while. I think I mentioned that in the last exercise. But anyway, we'll talk about adding in new users and creating accounts and all the rest of it. And what we can do is we can set up different accounts with different privileges, right? So sort of the most simplistic set of privileges is what's called a subscriber role. And then sort of the top level or the top set of privileges would be the administrator. And then we have sort of a plethora of options sort of in between the two, subscriber and administrator, for allowing different things to happen on our blog. So anyway, all it's saying here is, hey, you want to let people register? No problem. What role do you want to assign them when they actually do register? So anyway, we'll get into exactly what these different roles do and what they can and can't do in all good time. So anyway, I'm going to uncheck that, and I'll just leave that all alone here. Okay, and then below that, we have our time zone, and this always kind of messes people up. What WordPress does is it uses the Universal Time Code, or UTC. So how this works is, depending on the time zone that you're in, that time zone is going to be assigned a UTC value, either a positive or a negative value. So I'm on New York and Toronto time here in North America. So I believe it's UTC minus 5, is it? I think. I'm going from memory anyway. I've already set up my blog, so I can't remember what I set it to. If you're on Pacific time, so in other words, Los Angeles, Vancouver, I believe that's UTC minus 8, I think it is. So anyway, again, I'm going from memory here, but if you're not sure what your UTC value is, you can just do a quick Google search and you can find out what it is. So hopefully no big deal. And then below that, you can set up your date format. So you can have March 3rd, 2010, or you could have the year and then the month and then the day, or then you could have the month and then the day and then the year, and so on. Or If you want, you can throw in some custom PHP values if you want to sort of customize your date. I always leave the default, though. I just stick with March 3rd, 2010. The time format, you can also set that to whatever you'd like. Again, I usually just leave the defaults. The week starts on whichever day of the week you want. Again, I just leave the defaults here. You can mess with that. And then finally, don't forget to click on Save Changes down at the bottom to lock in any adjustments that you've made to your general settings. Now, because I changed the blog title and the tagline, I'll flip over to my live blog here. I still have this extra tab open here inside my browser, and then I'll refresh Command-R or Control-R on the Windows side. Jeff's Sweet Rockin' Flash blog, nifty Flash tricks and tutorials. So there you go. Hopefully all good setting up those general options here for your blog.